I, 26F, want my husband, 27M, to immediately block one of his friends Kyla, 27F. He thinks I am overreacting, and wants opinions from some cool-headed people on if I am just acting crazy, or this is something that would cross the line for you. My husband has a group of 8 friends he is close with since his college days. Kyla is one of his friends. When my husband and I started dating, he introduced me to all of them, and everyone was very friendly. I used to hang out with them frequently. I am an introvert, and so is my husband. I would always ask him to spend time alone as being in social settings just saps all my energy away. His friends, and especially Kyla, always made it a point to tell me how he hangs out with them less after he started dating me. Kyla also had a weird energy around me. If I was with my husband, she would be the most friendliest with me. However, as soon as he walked away, she acted like I did not exist. My husband hates to be touched by others, we both are ND, but Kyla would always tease him by trying to hug him, mess his hair, etc. I never felt she was flirting with him, but just teasing him to make him annoyed. Overall, she just feels like a person who has a severe social boundary issue. We got married 2 years ago, and things have been great between us. Last week, we had our second marriage anniversary and invited a bunch of people. His friends stayed back after all the guests left, and we were all drinking and chatting. One of his friends, Jen, became a bit tipsy and started complimenting me on how beautiful our house is, how I care for my husband, and how he has changed for the better since marriage. Everyone was laughing at my husband at how much of a slob he was when he was single. Jen then pointed at Kyla and said, "You better pay up, 'cause you had bet that their marriage would not even last for 2 years. Everyone became silent and started changing the topic. I also did not want to spoil the mood, and let it go, but it stuck in my head. After everyone left, I asked my husband what Jen was talking about. He also had noticed Jen saying that and was ready with a full explanation. He told me the story of what happened when we got engaged. When he proposed to me, he had not told his friends that he was going to do that. We went on a trip to Puerto Rico, and he surprised me there. We put our engagement pictures on Instagram while we were on the trip, and it was a big surprise to everyone as we were only dating for 1 year. When he came back and met all his friends, everyone congratulated him. However, Kyla started ranting about how he was a fool to propose so quickly, and she felt that I was not the right girl for him. Seems like she said some unkind things about me, implying I was a gold digger. My husband's family is wealthy, but so is mine. She had said that she bet we would break up within 2 years if we got married. That is why Jen was taunting her about how happy my husband was with me. I was very furious at this point, as I feel this is something he should have told me. I asked him to tell me truthfully if he had ever dated Kyla or had any history with her, as he has always told me that he has never dated anyone from his friend group. He said that he has of course not dated or hooked up with Kyla. However, Kyla had asked him out a few times when they were in college, and he always politely declined. I asked why he said no to her, and he said he just does not have any romantic feelings for her. I can see that because my husband does have a type based on me or the other people he has dated in the past, and Kyla is the opposite of that. I am just mad at her for saying bad things about me, especially after knowing that we were already engaged and betting against my marriage. I told my husband that he needs to minimize contact with Kyla and she is not invited to parties at our house anymore. He feels I'm being too harsh for something she said almost 3 years ago. He also pointed out that she has been very supportive to both of us, and also helped a lot during our wedding arrangements. He feels she is just blunt and forthright when she speaks, but does not mean those things. He told me to take some time and calm down, and we would revisit this topic in a week. He is worried this will completely change the dynamics within his friend group. Am I the off for wanting him to block her and stop inviting her to our house? Do you think I am overreacting? I think betting against our marriage and badmouthing me behind my back seems like a huge betrayal. I am also mad at my husband that he kept this fact from me, and also never told me that Kyla asked him out during college days. Am I just being crazy and reactive? How would you react in this situation? I don't want to distance my husband from his friends, but I also do not want to see that bitch Kyla's face again. Comments, Death Teat, Info, how has Kyla acted since the wedding? Has her behavior changed? You describe a bad behavior in the past tense, so one might believe she's not doing those things anymore. Does she still exhibit boundary issues with your husband? Throwaway Kyle 125E3, yes, her behavior with my husband has not changed at all after marriage. However, she is the same with all other friends too. With me, she is fake nice, where she acts like we are best friends in front of my husband, and barely talks to me when he is not around. The Book of Torment, what did he think when you told him that she's totally different when he leaves? Throwaway Kyle 125E3, he just says she does not know you that well, just ignore her. She has never said anything negative to my face. However, as a girl, you just know when someone does not like you. It's hard to explain to him that it's your feeling and not based on anything she has specifically said or done. A sperma previous, NTA. Being blunt or forthright, isn't a pass to be rude and contemptuous to your friends, so. I consider myself forthright and yet I can still use manners and tact. I would dump a friend who was so snakish to my husband and I. One her a day, NTA. It's definitely natural for you to dislike Kyla. Sounds like she's into your husband. It'll probably be hard for him to outright block her considering the dynamic of the friend group, and the last thing you want is to turn all his friends against you. Personally, I don't think blocking her is the solution, but to instead sit him down and seriously voice your concerns. That she would say something like that she touches him too often, that she would bet against your marriage behind your back. That stuff needs to be shut down and he needs to be on your side. Personally, I'd get drunk with them and make a cocky joke to Kyla when you're alone that she's jealous you ended up with him instead of her and laugh in her face, but I'm petty as lol. Nicolexo. If it changes the dynamics of the friend group, then there is no one to blame but Kyla. She's the one who feels the need to cross boundaries and make bets against your marriage. I wouldn't stop going to events that she is invited to, but I also wouldn't invite her into my home nor to events that I've planned/hosted. NTA. Update. I had posted almost 6 months ago regarding my husband's friend Kyla betting that our marriage would not last for more than 2 years. I was upset and had asked my husband to stop talking to her, because she disrespected our marriage. Since then, Kyla has pulled some really pathetic shit to stir up issues between my husband and I. After I wrote the post, my husband was trying to convince me that Kyla's was just joking when she made those comments, and it happened so long ago. Kyla messaged me the next day apologizing me for her comments and also not making more efforts to connect with me. I accepted her apology and started warming up to her. She started inviting me for brunches and girls' night out with them, and I felt included in their friend group. One day during brunch, I brought up why Kyla really thought our marriage would not work out. Kyla told me that my husband broke up with his long-term ex-girlfriend Joanna 2 months before he started dating me. I knew that part, but Kyla told me that my husband was really heartbroken after the breakup and swore to her that he would stay away from dating anyone. When he met me, my mom set us up on a blind date. She was surprised how quickly we hit it off. Kyla thought that I was his rebound relationship, but when he proposed to me within a year, she was worried that he was making a very rash decision. My husband's family is rich, and she thought it was unwise for him to marry so quickly without knowing me well. She did not know enough about me and that my family is also very well off. That is why she was concerned that I was taking advantage of his vulnerable state. She apologized to me and said that it was wrong for her to assume that, and over the years, she has seen how happy we are together. I appreciated her honesty and Kyla, and I became good friends since then and started hanging out more frequently. Around 2 months ago, my husband went for a conference to Seattle for 3 nights. After he came back, I got a "Hey girly" message on Instagram from Joanna, his ex. She told me that my husband contacted her a few months ago and they met in Seattle during the conference, and she could give me more proof if I wanted. I went through my husband's Instagram, but he seems to have blocked her. I made a mistake of mentioning it to Kyla, as she is the only person honest to me about Joanna, and she went in detective mode to help me. She was still friends with Joanna on Instagram, as they all went to college together, and opened her profile. The message sent to me was from a different profile, with no followers. We checked her photos, and we saw that she attended the same conference as my husband did in Seattle. Kyla suggested I should ask Joanna for more proof and also ask my husband about the same before assuming the worst. I asked my husband if he met Joanna, and he said yes. He told me he just met her in the expo hall and chatted with her for a few minutes. I asked him why he did not mention it to me, and he told me it was just a quick conversation, and he did not think too much of it. He asked me how I knew it, and I told him that Kyla mentioned that she saw her pictures at the conference, and I thought he might have seen her. I messaged Joanna again to share more proof. She told me that they have been chatting for the past 2 months and planned to attend the conference together. She shared a log of their messages, where my husband was actively flirting with her. The screenshots did look legit, but I did not see any of those messages in my husband's Instagram profile. I talked to Kyla about it, as I did not know what to believe. I messaged Joanna to tell us what happened between them, and she told me that he invited her to the room at nights and they hooked up, but she does not have any photos as he insisted. They do not take any pictures together. I immediately realized it was fake and messaged Joanna to fuck off. She kept on insisting they were telling the truth, and she spent the nights with my husband in his room on all 3 nights. I told her that my husband and I were playing video game, Sea of Thieves, for almost 2 to 3 hours each night after his dinner, as that is what we do to catch up when he is away. Unless Joanna was sitting behind him watching us play until he fell asleep, she was full of shit. I also told my husband about the whole incident, and he told me I should have come to him sooner. He told me that he has gone no contact with Joanna ever since they broke up, and he just ran into her at the conference. He told me I could check his phone and everything to verify that he has blocked her everywhere. I told him I do not need to, and Joanna might have run into him and just decided to fuck his life by making up stuff. When all the friends met that weekend, my husband and I told everyone about how Joanna sent messages to me and faked everything. Kyla was also telling what happened as she had told her about it. Kyla accidentally let it slip out that it's luckily, we are nerds and play video games at nights before sleeping, else, props go to Joanna for making up a convincing story. I never told Kyla about the video game stuff. I just told her Joanna is full of shit, and I blocked her. It took me until I came home to connect the dots. I told my husband about it, and he confronted Kyla. She denied it and told him that I told her about the video game stuff on a phone call, but I don't remember doing it. We have since decided to keep our distance from Kyla. Kyla has called me multiple times to meet up, but I just make up reasons that I am busy. I do not know why she did it, but at this point, I am not interested in it, and we have decided to just see her on social occasions and avoid hanging out with her as much as possible. I feel stupid that she played me for a fool, and I should have not gone to her when Joanna started messaging me. In hindsight, it seems suspicious that Kyla started telling me about Joanna, and at the same time, Joanna claimed to have an affair with my husband. I do not know what her intentions are, but I am mad enough that I will avoid her as much as possible. I wish I had some real proof that she was the one messaging me, so that I could expose her. I also feel bad for suspecting my husband. But I am glad my husband and I are on the same page now. Now on to the next story. Story 2. Caught my fiancée cheating with her ex at her bachelorette party after seeing some expensive gift bags, so I exposed everything at our rehearsal dinner. I, 26 male, met my fiancée, 26 female, at a convention I was at for work 3 years ago, and we hit it off instantly. We ended up hooking up that first night, but we exchanged numbers and we stayed in touch. Not long after we had to leave each other, we sort of developed this long-distance relationship. Over time, that developed into a monogamous relationship, and after a while I decided to move over to her city. She had a sick grandparent at the time that she was helping take care of, so it only seemed right that I be the one to move. After we lived together for about 6 months, I knew that I wanted to spend the rest of my life with her. I bought a ring and I proposed. Not even a week after I proposed, she started planning the wedding with her best friend and her sister. Everything between us was perfect. I didn't think I would have had any reason to worry about her behavior. We were dedicated to each other and I fully trusted her. Being away from all of my friends and family was difficult. I had a pretty tight-knit group of people back home. So, I really tried to immerse myself in my work to avoid the lonely feelings I was having without them there. Months pass and we're getting closer to the wedding date. My fiancé had everything planned and everything was going very smoothly leading up to the bachelor and bachelorette parties. I was able to find a weekend where all of my good friends and my brother were able to come over and visit for the bachelor party. We rented an Airbnb at a cabin on the lake. We spent the whole weekend drinking beer and fishing. Honestly, I had no desire to go to any clubs or hire any dancers or anything like that. I just wanted to have a weekend with my friends. My fiancé, on the other hand, wanted to have the party of her life. She's been telling me all about what her dream bachelorette party was, and it involved going to Vegas, gambling a little bit, going to shows, male strip clubs, and the works. Again, I trusted her, so I didn't think anything was going to happen. We both went our separate ways for the weekend and we didn't talk to each other at all. Our friends made sure we had no contact with each other because they insisted that was the point of this party. When the weekend was over, she and I both got back home and we filled each other in on what happened at the parties. I told her that nothing too exciting really happened. It was more so a relaxing weekend than anything. She kept insisting that I was hiding something, in a joking manner at first, but it quickly took a turn and it seemed somewhat accusatory. She thought it was abnormal for a man to have a bachelor party without any dancers being present, so she thought I was lying to her. She told me she had a fun time with the girls. They were drunk almost all of the weekend and she said it was a nice farewell to her single life. A few days had passed and I was at home working when I heard her laptop dinging. She had been over at her grandmother's house helping her with some cleaning and things like that. I assumed that she must have just left it open by mistake. I'd never been too nosy before or anything like that, but there were a lot of notifications going on. I started to get kind of worried. I thought that maybe it might have been her sending a message to get my attention in case something happened and she couldn't reach me. So, I once just went to take a brief look at what was happening. Turns out, it was her bachelorette party group chat sending all of the pictures and videos from the weekend. I laughed to myself, thinking I was just being paranoid. However, I did look at the pictures. My alarm bells quickly started to go off when I saw an ex-boyfriend of hers in the pictures. She and I had been open about all of our past relationships, so I knew who he was as soon as I saw him. In fact, he was somebody that she had been with for many years, even longer than she and I were together. Sometimes I wondered if she was still in love with him, but she convinced me that she wasn't. She said he had a new girlfriend and they were just friends. He was even invited to the wedding. In several pictures, they were very close to each other. He had his hand on her lower back and they were dancing together. It seemed pretty intimate, definitely too close for comfort for me. As I kept scrolling, I found a video that another girl had taken, and in the background, I could see my fiancé climbing onto the couch where her ex was sitting and straddling him. Other girls were screaming at them and cheering them on as she kissed him. It got hot and heavy real quick. The video ended with them walking off hand in hand to go God only knows where. I felt sick to my stomach. Never in my life had I felt as heartbroken as I did in that moment. I had always been insecure about her ex, and there they were kissing and going off to what I assumed was a bedroom together. Right away, I looked through their messages and I found more evidence that confirmed they did in fact sleep together. On top of that, I learned that they had unprotected sex. I learned that because, in one of the messages following their night together, he told her that he found out he had a venereal disease and that she should get tested. I was extremely thankful that she and I had made an agreement not to sleep together until the night of the wedding. The last time we had been together was a week before the parties, so if she contracted anything from him I didn't get it. I was angry, I was hurt, and I wanted to get back at her. The wedding was off, but she didn't know that. I screenshotted the messages and saved the videos so I could send them to myself to have as evidence. The rehearsal dinner for our wedding was just around the corner, and she and I had planned on giving little speeches in front of everyone. Another part of that was giving them little gift bags to thank them for their involvement. I printed out about 50 copies of the text messages with pictures of my fiancée and her ex kissing at the bachelorette party. When the day of the rehearsal dinner came around, I slipped them into the goodie bags. My fiancée gave her speech, telling everybody about how much she loves me and how much she couldn't live without me. When it came to my turn to give the speech, I started off by saying that I put a surprise for everybody in the gift bags and I asked them to take a look. Honestly, I hadn't known that he was going to be there with his girlfriend, but it was a pleasant surprise to see it. The smile on my fiancée's face quickly faded away when she looked at what everyone was pulling out of the bags. On top of that, her ex's new girlfriend poured water all over him and ended things right there. She even yelled at him about how irresponsible he was and how he could have given something to her. Honestly, it made me wonder if that wasn't the first time he cheated on her. After she stormed out of the restaurant, I started my speech. I started off by saying how glad I was to have found out about my fiancée's true nature before we were married. Then I called everything off, telling everybody to return all the gifts they bought or keep them for themselves. I walked away and my now ex-fiancée was chasing me to try to explain what happened. She tried to lie to me and tell me they didn't sleep together. But in the messages, he clearly said that he might have passed her an STD, so I didn't understand how she thought she was getting away with that lie. I ended up going back to our apartment and packing up the small number of things that I moved there with. I booked a flight back home and I stayed with my brother for a few weeks until I found my own place. Now, she's out of my life for good and I don't want anything to do with her ever again.